So the topic of the class is Eli, right? Davening. And we're going to look at Pesukei de Zimra today. Okay, so I know you're familiar already with the structure of davening. So the way the davening works is that we have the introductory section, which is the karbanos and all the lead up to the official service, right? And then we have the first section, which is generally known as Pesukei de Zimra, which is verses of praise of Hashem, basically. Then we have the blessings of the Shema, then the Shema, and then the Shemona Esrei. So really, originally, davening meant Shemona Esrei. That was just the tefillah that we say when we stand before Hashem, and that's the tefillah. Then at some point, I don't know exactly the history or exactly when, but at some point was combined with saying the Shema, and before and after the Shema, we have the blessings of the Shema. So that all starts from the section which begins with Baruch Hu, and then before that, then additionally was added very early on also Pesukei de Zimra. The verse literally Pesukim is verses, right? Pesukei, the verses of Zimra song, singing Hashem's praises before we daven. So everything is still a lead up to the Amidah, to the Shemona Esrei, right? But there are different steps, and I'm sure you've heard this expression of the ladder of tefillah, right? You've heard this expression where the ladder starts on the ground and we go up step by step by step until we stand before Hashem in silent prayer. So, and the idea is to generate a feeling and a love and a connection to Hashem that should lead us to daven. That's the basic idea. So even if we're not, if we're not putting a talus over our head, obviously, in a either literal or figurative sense, right, of putting a talus on one's head, in other words, to sit and daven for hours on end. But if, let's say, just a regular davening, you pick up the siddur, you're going to daven to Hashem, half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour maximum, that you're going to just the basic davening, but still the basic intent still has to be there, that we're standing before Hashem in prayer. And so Chassidus makes a big deal about davening. Davening is a very important part of the service of a Jew, because this is reinforcing every single day that we're setting up the day in a way that we can then serve Hashem through our whatever work we do, even if whatever work we're doing, whatever shlichus we're doing, whatever level we're standing before Hashem in service, that we're going to do this throughout the day, and we want to be inspired, we want to be energized to do it, right? So this is the basic intent. So a very important part of that is Pesukei de Zimra, and the basis of Pesukei de Zimra is there's a Gemara which says that I should be me'gomrei ha'halel kol yom. That should be from the people who complete Hallel every day. Now we don't say Hallel every day. Everyone knows that, right? So Hallel is said, and the full Hallel is only said a certain number of times a year. And Hanukkah, we just said it every day, the whole Hallel, but generally we don't say Hallel every day. And in fact, the Gemara even says somewhere else that we don't, Hallel every day is like, it's exaggerated. But so the Gomrei Hallel every day, we say the last 5 chapters of the Tehillim is the main part of Pesukei de Zimra. Right? So the last 5, is it the last 6? Ashrei, Hallelujah, yeah, I think it's 6. The last 6. So from Kuf Mem Hey is if you open a Tehillim, it doesn't say Ashrei in the beginning of Kuf Mem Hey. It begins Tehillah lo David Arimimcha Ha'Melech. We add a pasuk at the beginning of Ashrei Yeshua Yitzchak. How happy those who sit in your house, right? But Tehillah David Arimimcha Ha'Melech is the first of the 6 chapters, the last 6 chapters of Tehillim. This will be the shir of, if you're saying Tehillim every day and completing every month, and as part of Chitas, so it will be the Tehillim of Yom Lamed, which begins from Tehillah David, right? So so we have the last 6 chapters of Tehillim. So that is as if we're finishing the Tehillim every day, because these sing the praises of Hashem, and this is the way that we're approaching Hashem in our davening as a preparation for the study and the work that we do in the rest of our day. So there are many different levels of what it means to daven. So the ultimate Hasidic davening is that you maybe sit hours in a trance, like not meditation, but more like there's a different word for it, contemplation, thinking over an idea of godliness. And there's a beautiful recording of Rabbi Gurari from Montreal, who's the head of the yeshiva, that he's the main mashpia in the yeshiva in Montreal, and he explains how davening is really getting to know Hashem. That it doesn't matter what concept of godliness you're going to think, but if you so one of the classic ways which a chassid davens is you learn a Maimon Chassidus for an hour or two, and then you really try and focus on the concepts of the Maimon, because the Maimon expresses in words a concept which is really a godly concept, and this is an amazing thing that it's possible for us to think godliness, because godliness is not thought, it's not intellect. The godliness is talking about a hidden light in the universe that is way beyond, right? We're talking about Hashem's presence in this world is cannot be contained in any thoughts. But the miracle is that Hashem was able to through Chassidus to give us a way of picturing different levels of that shine of godly energy into the world. So you can relate to davening on that level, that you just take you want to know who it is that I'm davening for. Who am I davening? Who is it that I'm davening to? And you want to picture that and get to know him and get close to him and really appreciate who Hashem is. And that's could be done on the deepest level. But we're not talking about that level now. We're talking about a more simple level. Now, there's another level which is between, which is Pirush HaMilos, understanding the meaning of the words, just knowing what it is you're saying. So just knowing what it is you're saying is definitely a very important level of davening. And in some ways, it's maybe the most important level of davening, because that's the basics. I'm standing before Hashem. I'm talking to him. I'm aware of his presence. And therefore, at least I should know what it is I'm saying, right? So that's a level which is an important level. And that's one level of davening. Then there's another level of davening which is beyond that, where Chassidus gives us a different spin on the Pirush HaMilos. It gives us a different understanding of the meaning of these words, by which it's not just poetry anymore, but it actually has some kind of a logical framework of what it's talking about. And it's actually interesting. I joined recently a WhatsApp group. It's a members only. You have to pay $20 a month, which is not usually my common way of doing things. But it's about davening, and they have three rabbis really. One is Rabbi Raskin from England, and he gives like basic halacha structure, why this davening is here, why that davening is there. That's interesting. But then beyond that, they have Rabbi Klein and Rabbi Farkash. Rabbi Klein gives like a Pirush HaMilos interpretation of that part of davening, and then the next week Rabbi Farkash gives a Chassidus interpretation of the same paragraph. So I was actually listening. Oh, I forgot to take out the other one. I was listening on the way walking up and down to Rabbi Farkash, listening over to his explanation of one of these chapters where we see this actually in a very beautiful way. So, and then what he was explaining is that then what so if you just regular Pirush HaMilos, right? So let's even take the chapter that we're going to look at. Let's look at in depth the one that he was explaining in this particular. We have one on. He's going through the entire. Or they're going through the entire Pesukei de Zimra. But look at the one on page 34. If you have the regular siddur, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Nafshi et Hashem. Right? Praise Hashem. Let my soul praise Hashem. Right? Yeah. And then it says. Right? You see it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Ahalala Hashem b'chaya, I will praise Hashem in my life. Azamra lelekai ba'edi, I will sing to Hashem with my power, I guess, basically. I don't have the translation here exactly, but something like my power. So, which in some ways, it's the chaya is like the nefesh elokis, which is the godly soul, and edi is the nefesh habamis, which is the physical being, okay? Yeah.
It's so much.
All right. Well, we can slow a little bit if you want.
No.
And then he says, "Al tivtachu b'nedivim b'ven adam she'ein l'shua." Don't believe in people who want to give you free gifts because a person has no salvation. I'm just saying simple meaning of those words. Teitze rucha yashuv admal. Say his wind goes out, he goes down to the ground. On that time, all his abilities are gone. I don't even know what, but if someone has a siddur with a translation, you can tell me what Eshtanesa is. Ashrei shekel Yaakov be'ezrei sivrei al Hashem leikav. Happy is the one that the God of Yaakov is its help, and his hope is to Hashem. Very like the simple explanation means a lot, right? If you really think about those words, that don't trust people are giving you false hopes and so on. Don't go after all kinds of things, but in a certain way, the detail is poetic. It doesn't. It seems to be like a repetitious, poetic repetition. It doesn't seem to have a direct meaning. So, but if you look at it deeper, and this he was explaining it according. Now it's actually interesting. Again, Rabbi Farkash then it took this the next week, and he started explaining it in more depth. So, if you go at it a little deeper, every single piece of this fits together and it means something. And so this is a mimer. It's based on a mimer, which is in the Maimarim of the. It's in the Siddur Imdaf, the Siddur with Chasidus. It's a mimer. The Siddur Imdaf was compiled by the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe, using the Maimarim of the Alter Rebbe, of the first Rebbe, and he said that this is a mimer which the Rabbeim, father to son, taught to their child when they were starting to understand Hasidus and davening. This is a very, very fundamental mimer, and it's on this Haluka Halli Nafshi Es Hashem. This is based on this verse. So it's a very, very basic understanding of what davening is about and what Hasidus is about with regard to davening. So what he explains is like this. The key word over here is bitachon, is trusting in Hashem, but it's much more than that. So the Maimon explained, Al tiftuchu v'nedivim, do not trust in people who want to give you something for nothing. So the basic approach of klipa, of the negative forces in this world to the world is either try to drag you in, it tastes good, it feels good, it's pleasant, it's whatever it is, right? That's the basic, and even though Hashem says no, but it's okay, you'll enjoy it, it's good, it's right. That's the basic approach of klipa to a person. So Al tiftachu v'nedivim, don't listen, because it's not good for you. Now, there's also, even in the permitted, okay, it's not exactly up to our level, it's not our standard, but come on, it's okay. You'll enjoy it, it's all right. And if a person can take his or her experience of this world from different places. So you can take from klipa and you can take from kedusha. It actually ties in if you're learning the Tanya of Chitas, right? I was talking the last couple of days about how there's the fight going on between the negative and the positive. Who should own the person? Who is the person going with? So if you go with the negative, either klipa, which is the forbidden, or even with the permitted but not the holy, so you're putting yourself in that camp. She'ein le teshua. It feels good right now. Al tifchu v'nedivim. Why she'ein le teshua? Because with people that they don't have teshua. It's good. You could live. You can enjoy. You can get. Let's say I'll give you a couple of examples. Like earn your living in a way which is not exactly moral, right? So right now you're getting a great salary. It's amazing. I don't want to give the example that my kids give all the time, but there is an example. A lot of people in this community are earning a living with something which is not so moral, but it's very high paying. So you could do it. It's maybe not even forbidden. I'm not sure. It's a borderline, but right now you're going to live a great life. You're going to have it. But you ain't sure when the chips are down further along in life, it's not going to be good for you because you're tapped into an energy which doesn't have everlasting life. And certainly, if you think about really the long term in terms of what is going to, because it's not just this world; it's the world to come too. It's the spiritual well-being of your soul. It's certainly not connected to that. So it's great for right now. It may feel good. It may even be not forbidden right now, but it's not going to have a good long-term result. Teitze rucha, because when the spirit goes out at some point, Yashiv Ladon say it goes back to its basics, which is it's coming from the place of negative. Ashrei shekel Yaakov be'ezrei, and it's interesting. He points out that in the Mimer, and Rabbi Farkash repeated that. He said that it says Ashrei shekel Yaakov be'ezrei. Happy is the one that the God of Yaakov is by his side. What was the God of Yaakov? We just learned the Pashas of Yaakov. He went to Lava, and he was struggling to maintain his connection over there. It was hard. It wasn't easy, but he fought it and he did it. And he came back and he built not only a whole family, but ultimately he built the whole Jewish people out of it. So that's why it connects him to Keli Yaakov. If Hashem is standing by your side, Tzivra, if your hope is to Hashem, then you're on good terms. Then he continues, Eisa Shamayim va'aretz. He creates the order of heaven and earth. I say it means not just to create, but also to organize. He organizes heaven and earth in the right way that I'd say Yom Beskal Shabam, the sea and all that is in it. Hashemer emes la'ilam. His salvation, his assistance is emes la'ilam. It's truth and it's forever. So that's what you're tapping into. You're tapping into an energy which is true and everlasting, as opposed to something which looks good right now, but down the road it doesn't have anything to give you. And that's really the sum of the whole life of a person, right? Is trying to tap into an energy that is a positive energy. So you can get your life from a lot of places, but you want to tap into positive, good energy that's going to be that's there for the long term. And then the second half of the Maimed explains which is he does justice for the forlorn. He gives bread to the hungry. He unties those who are tied up. He opens the eyes of the blind. Hashem Zekek Kufufim, he stands up those who are bent over. So in the Maimer, it explains that all of those levels are not just random. Also, it's also talking about how Hashem takes care of those who are struggling. There are a lot of struggles in life, right? So some of the struggles that he brings are Re'evim. A person's hungry to be close to Hashem, but he can't. You want to ask a question? Oh no. The person is hungry to be close to Hashem, but he doesn't know how. He's wondering. He's lost. Hashem will give you the bread. He'll find you. He'll help you find your path. Hashem matir asurim. A person is tied into. He didn't exactly say this, but this is, I think, asurim is if you think about parei, right? And it says how Hashem hardened his heart, and he wasn't able to. And even when he wanted to say yes, he couldn't say yes. So a lot of our lives are like that. We get into negative cycles of behavior, and we just can't break out of them, even though we know it's not good for us, but we just can't break out of it. We come tied in to a negative way, in a way that it's just hard. Hashem will help us break out of those boundaries and not be tied up to the things that are holding us back, that are he loosens the bound. If a person is blind, he's not seeing the path, Hashem will open our eyes. He'll help us see the right way. I don't remember exactly how he translated that. And Hashem Zerkit Kufim. Kufim means bent over. An animal, the head faces the ground. He's bent over. He's only focused on the ground. He's not in the. So Hashem stands you up, makes you stand straight, so you look up towards heaven. But also, kaful, if a person becomes sort of subservient to these negative voices, Hashem will straighten this up. Because in the end, Hashem Rehev Tzadikim. That's the next part of it. Hashem loves the righteous. And I'm not going to translate. I remember the translation of the last couple of lines, but I don't think we continue right away. Maybe it's not in the mind. I'm not sure. So Yosem it. And then Yimlech Hashem le'elam, Hashem will live forever. I mean, just the translation. The simple translation is Hashem protects the ger, the stranger. He supports the Yosem Almana, the orphan and the widow. The derech Hashem Yaves, in the way of the evil is, it's not that it falls apart. And then it says Yimlech Hashem le'elam, which maybe, according to the other class that was given, is like sort of an introduction to what's coming next, which is Hashem will, his kingdom is forever, and for all generations, which sort of goes into the next. Each one of these capitals leads into the next one, which is also interesting. But the point so this is the simple explanation, according to Chassidus, of understanding the flow of how this whole chapter fits together. It has a story, and it's talking basically about trusting in Hashem. Also, just like the simple explanation, but with a much deeper appreciation of the different pieces that are involved. Then there's another mimer of the Rebbe, which is a very well-known mimer, which is about it's one of the fundamental mimer of the Rebbe's teaching, where he talks about Anon Nasiv Malka, that all the courtiers around, everyone's chasing after the princes of the king, and the smart guy says, I want the king himself, I don't want the prince. So that's a different level of understanding. Again, it's the same capital, and now from a deeper understanding, which is, till now we were talking about the forces of evil, but even if we talk in holiness itself, there's different ways to connect to Hashem. Do we connect to Hashem through some kind of secondary approach, right? We go to the princes, we go to the helpers, we go to different, or do we go straight to the king? So, which means that we want to connect to the Rebbe, because the Rebbe really gives us the ability to reach the epitome of what we're in this world to do. So one of the special things about the relationship of a chassid with the Rebbe is that the Rebbe really sees the essence of our soul, sees our place in the divine scheme, and is able to connect us to that. And so therefore, when we connect with the Rebbe, we're really connecting to the essence of what our mission is in this world. So that's also another layer of explanation of this capital, of this piece of Tehillim, which really explains where we, and then, as I said, beyond that, you can go into much more detailed understanding of specific words, specific ideas. So there are other deeper levels of davening also, where you're focused on a specific concept or a specific one line that you take it out and you understand it more deeply, or things like that. But this is sort of like an overall explanation. The one before, which is Ashrei, is talking more about Hashem's kingship, how Hashem is king over the world. It's not so specific to the Jewish people. It's more like Hashem's general hashgacha, his watching over the world, how Hashem leads the world through his kingdom, and so on. The one afterwards is talking about, we're talking about the heavenly hosts and the way that Hashem, we can focus on a lot of detail in how Hashem makes things grow. So it goes through all the levels of creation, domain, tzomeach, chai, medaba, the inanimate, the living, the growing, the living, which means animal life and fish, and then human life, and shows how each one is from Hashem and so on. The next one, which is Halas Hashem in Hashemayim, it begins with praise Hashem from the heavens, about the heavenly hosts and the different levels of heaven, how they're, and the planets and so on, how they're all bowing to Hashem and connecting to Hashem. And then the beauty of creation itself, from the depth of creation to the animal life and to that which is above the heavens, so rain and those things which are above. And then the last one is talking about the next one, rather, Shir Hashem Shir Chadash, is talking about how we can praise Hashem. It's actually interesting. It begins Tehillah Bikal Chasidim. His praise is in the congregation of Chasidim. I don't know if it means literally Chasidim or if it means those who are considered like Chassid, but it's cute. When I daven, I think about that sometimes, Chasidim. And then it's the Yismach Yisrael Ba'esav, Israel rejoices in our Maker, which is, of course, Hashem rejoicing in us, we rejoice in Hashem, and about cutting away the negative. So one of the things of Pesukei de Zimra, which is spoken about a lot in Chassidus, is one of the jobs of Pesukei de Zimra is weakening our ties with the physical world to allow us to go out to have a more godly experience. So that's very much in this, and the verses that express that are in the fourth Psalm 37, like 4 or 5 lines down, right? You have Reimim Eskel Bigreinam, B'cherev Pipiyas Biyadam. Reimim is the praise of Hashem is in their throat. B'cherev Pipiyas is a 2-edged sword, PP, right? Pipiyas, P is mouth, so a double-mouthed sword, so a 2-edged sword in their hand. So they're cutting away at so it's Pesukei de Zimra is from the word Lazamer, which means to prune. So when you have a beautiful tree, but it has a lot of dead branches on it, and the dead branches weaken it. So by cutting away the dead branches, you are able to let the center of the tree really grow. So that's what so Pesukei de Zimra, one of the key roles of Pesukei de Zimra is to cut away those dead branches so we can get to the essence, the real life that's inside. So that's in our relationship with Hashem, that's about, again, trying to ensure that we don't to weaken our ties to physicality, and therefore to allow us to be more connected to spirituality. So you can sort of see how the stuff that we learn in more detail fits into that agenda of helping us to really connect to Hashem as a preparation for what comes next, which is the blessings of the Shema and the Shema, which is expressing the unity of Hashem. Ba'ahavta, you shall love Hashem, and therefore you serve Him. It's the second paragraph, and then we go on to stand in silent prayer before Hashem, which is the Shemona Esrei. So it all fits in a line also, and also afterwards Tachlim, which is an even deeper connection. It's explained in some places. A lot of people like to skip Tachlim, but it's there's something. It says in Chassidus that it's the yichud, the unity with Hashem and Tachlim can be greater than the unity of Shemona Esrei. And then it's sort of the rungs up are followed by a few rungs down. So when you're in the shul, you see how after Shemona Esrei, there's a few paragraph in the Kaddish and another paragraph, another Kaddish, and you sort of going back down the slope on the other side as you're finishing the davening. So that's sort of an overview. I did it in a lot less than 40 minutes. They were worried that I couldn't fit it in, but that's sort of an overview. So if you want to ask questions, if the people online can ask questions also, I don't know if I can hear them, but anyway, if you want to just, if you want to focus on any part of it, go ahead. Yeah.
So didn't work in my mind before for davening. So when they just what helps my mom.
So that's interesting. The question is, what kind of memorim were they studying at the time that they found it to me? You must know something that everybody else doesn't know, because the question is exactly to the point. So
now,
yeah, there's a wealth of Hasidus, right? So I was repeating what I had even heard. I haven't even learned that Maimon inside yet. I think I did once, but not recently. But I was repeating what Shir on a Maimon, very quick synopsis. But so that's a Maimon of the Alter Rebbe, right? That was recorded by the Mittler Rebbe and put into the Siddur. That's most of it. And I mentioned also a Maimon of the Rebbe. When the Rebbe Rashab founded Tomchei Tmimim in 5666, Taf Reish Samach Vav, right? 5666. We're now in 5784. So it's about 118 years ago, something like that, right? Yes? So the Rebbe Rashab had brought in Hasidim. Till then, there hadn't been an official Chabad yeshiva of that style. He brought in, and you had to qualify to get into it. He had the creme de la creme. He had really amazing Hasidim who were very dedicated and very learned. And he began saying Maimorim. He began saying discourses. It actually started before, by the way, but it started at the time of the the Frierdiker Rebbe's chasna, because the Rebbe put, when the Frierdiker Rebbe got married at age 17 in Tafresh Nun Zion, so 56, 57, so 9 years before that. So that's when the Rebbe Rashab established him between him. But starting in Taf Reish Samach Vav, the Rebbe Rashab started delivering a series of Maimarim. It's called Hemshech. It's a series called Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah Taf Reish Samach Vav, the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, from the year, right, Taf Reish Samach Vav. So that was a series of Maimarim which went for about a year and a couple of months, a few months, where the Rebbe Rashab tried to lay out the basics of the structure of godliness and how it animates this world and how we can relate to it and appreciate it and understand it in a very, very detailed, like a Gemara. They call it the Gemara of Hasidus. So it's like he laid it out in a very methodical path, which did not exist before. Things were scattered in different Maimarim before. And then after he finished that Maimar, a few years later in Taf Reish Ayin Beis, so 5, 6, 7, 2, that another series which went 2 years, which is the Hamshach Yom Tov. It begins the Shoshek Dimu. Begins from Shavuos, and the Rabbeim said Maimarim on Yom Tovim on Shabbos, and they would always mostly begin with a pasuk from relating to the particular times, if it was the Parsha of the week or if it was the holiday. So Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah is a quote from the Gemara. Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah Shechol Yis b'Shabbos. So I'll give you too much detail, but so that begins from there. And those Maimarim, the Rebbe Rashab really laid out the understanding that we can have in the structure of godliness as it relates to this world. Well, the essence of God is not understandable, but how it comes down to this world, we can have some. And part of it is because we understand ourselves. From my flesh, I appreciate godliness because God created this in a structure, a system, mind and heart and action, in a way that mirrors the way that Hashem himself, his light comes down into this world. So by understanding ourselves, we can understand him. And man was created in Hashem's image, right? So that makes sense. So he really laid that out in a methodical way. So that, and some of those shiurim are available online through Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Paltiel, I think had some of it, others that really had explain many of those Maimarim. So, but the basics are still the basics. And I think that, it's very good, it's great to experience it on that level of the depth of understanding where, again, what's happening when you learn Hasidus, I mean, we just learned in Tanya, right? The Pesukei about Torah, that Torah is a twofold embrace with Hashem, that when we learn Torah, we go into an idea, so our mind goes into it, so that idea encompasses us, but we also understand the idea, so our mind holds that idea inside, right? So we have both. We go into it, and we, in some way, hold it. So that twofold embrace, that is the study of Torah, is much more in Hasidus because it means the twofold embrace with Hashem, because we're studying godliness. So we may not be able to understand godliness, but when we put our mind into it, we're going inside godliness. And when the godliness shines in our mind, we're containing that godliness within us. And that really is a way that's the twofold embrace with Hashem, with the Nosei Torah, with one who's giving the Torah, that now that godly light can now shine inside us. And that is something which is attainable, which, okay, it takes some work, but I don't think that anybody of us maybe is going to go to the point where we're going to spend hours in davening. I'm not sure that that's the right service. I think, but the basics to sort of appreciate what the davening means, to daven with the feeling for what it means, to maybe learn different concepts. But also, by the way, it's very, it's not so, I won't say user-friendly, but it's not so detailed in an explanation. But, they have the online, the Kahot has the Siddur where with Hasidic explanation, you can click on any verse and it explains it according to Chassidus. It gives the explanation from different Maimarim. the online siddur. Yeah, it's on it's on Chabad.org has it and other places. It's done by Sichos in English. So they really took like the Chassidus in each part of davening, and you can literally click and read in English, and it has the original source in Hebrew in Hebrew next to it, but it gives you some explanation in English. So it is accessible to be able to take any part of davening and try and understand what it means. And on my mom did explain it. There's also that I like very much. I just actually found out that there's a few more volumes available, and I just bought it. Or Hatfilah, which is Hebrew, full Hebrew, but it's the Rabbi Alperovich from England. He's a shliach in England. Yeah, the shliach oh, that's your shliach. So he compiled the Chassidus on davening. It's called Or Hatfilah. It's 11 volumes are now available. So starting from the brachas in the morning, going all the way, now he's up to Shemona Esrei already, which is far. When I was working on it last, he was only up to like in the middle of the Halukas where we are now. So he takes all the Hasidic explanation from all the different sources, and he puts them in order, according to the verses. So you can, like, if there's a particular section of davening that you want to focus on, you could find Maimarim in Hebrew originals, but some of the stuff is translated also that explain that part of davening according to Chassidus. Now, some of it might be very deep Chassidus, some of it might be more simple. The Frierdiker Rebbe had many Maimarim which are more avodadik, which are more down to earth for about our service rather than talking about the distant structure of spirituality and things like that. So it is there's something there for everybody, and I think that's really the message I want to deliver today, is that the davening can be very, very deep, but it can there are many different levels, and that's so you can access it on many different levels, from the simple understanding to a straightforward Hasidic understanding, to a depth of understanding of one particular pasuk or idea, and then you can focus on the structure of the divine chariot or the rays of emanation coming out of godliness down to like Baruch Shama. Baruch Shama has like each two words is a different level in godliness. I think maybe you've been studying that, right? So that coming down from the essence of godliness all the way down to the physical world. Now, it's very interesting to point out that that's true whether or not you understand it, right? So the fact that because the Baruch is about drawing down godliness into the world. So we say a bracha at the beginning of Pesukei Zimra, we say a bracha at the end of Pesukei Zimra. So the point of the bracha is drawing down godliness into the world. Baruch At Hashem means we bring down. So we're bringing down these levels. We're tapping into these levels when we say it, whether or not we understand it, or whether or not we understand it at the amazing depth that's available in it. So it's nice to appreciate it and understand it also at those levels, but the essence is there regardless. And when we stand in front of Hashem in silent prayer, we just ask for very simple things. We're still connecting with Hashem at the deepest level, even though we're talking about healing the sick and making sure we have food on our table, and all the things that are part of Shemona Esrei. So whether or not we really understand it in all its depth, absolutely stepping through all those levels, the way that's explained it's also considered in Dach, the main thing, where it explains every single, each two words, Baruch this, Baruch that, Baruch the other, each one coming down through the levels of godliness from just below the Kisei HaKavod. I guess you know better than me because you've studied the classes, down all the way down to the physical world. So that's true too, but that's separate. But this section here, and if we had time or another time when we'll have time, maybe we could talk about the role of the other pieces within it. This is the core. The core of Pesukei Zimra are these, what do we say, six? The six last chapters of Tehillim are the core of Pesukei Zimra. That's the essence of what it's about, which is singing Hashem's praise, inspiring us to chop away our connection to this world and allow us to connect to the essence, to God.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the best way to go about having like this deeper davening, because like I would love to study all the Maimorim,
Right.
and all the Psukim. But what I do right now is like when I learn a Maimer,
Right.
it doesn't really connect to the davening specifically.
Right.
And then while I daven, I think about those concepts. But like,
Yes, that is
there's
that's absolutely a chassidus davening. So in other words, because again, remember what I said at the beginning from Rabbi Garai? I thought this was very interesting. He said, there's a tape of him saying this recently. Somebody asked him a question about chassidus davening about. He said, "You're standing before Hashem. You really need to get to know who it is you're standing before. So any piece of chassidus that you study, and then you connect to Hashem through thinking about him and contemplating on that idea, whatever it is, whatever part of davening, but you're now picturing Hashem in a certain way, or allowing Hashem's whatever presence to now come inside you, and that's a connection through davening. So then this simple Pirush Hamil is just knowing what you're saying, and plus that kind of, even for 10, 15 minutes before you daven to learn a godly concept, whatever it is, because whatever it is you learn, it's going to affect you, because the closeness that we can have to Hashem and the way that we can understand Hashem, and what I'm saying about we can understand, but we know that now that godly concept is shining inside my brain right now, and it's making me feel connected, and now we daven with it. That's fine. That's definitely part of it. 100% part of it. Okay, I think we hit our. Anyone else have a question? I think we hit our time frame. All right.
so fun.
Yeah.